Okay, so obviously I'm doing this on stem cell research, and I get to be the first victim. Uh, just kind of preface this that obviously, I'm not a doctor in any of this, so, and I've covered a lot of material, so most of this is by my understanding. That said, I kind of want to have like an open dialogue. I just don't want to, it's not speech class. I don't want to get up here and just, tell you, and you guys have to be quiet and no one makes a sound. So if you have something to add or a question, by all means, ask it or add it.
You want it at the end, or do you want it at the
Even during, trust me, I went over this enough. I can find my place. So, but really, and if you didn't know that I went down and toured UAMS and specifically the Cord Blood Bank of Arkansas they have down there. And I talked to, the main person I talked to was Dr. Michelle Fox. She's the director of stem cell therapy down there and transfusion medicine. She's also the director of a lot of other things as well, but these are just the main things that are pertinent to this discussion anyway. But she doesn't really like the term stem cell. And that's what she said to me. She rather prefers terms like precursor or progenitor cells. And she doesn't like that because there's a certain stigma that applies with stem cells. When you say stem cell, almost every single person automatically thinks embryonic stem cells right off the bat. And that's most people. I mean, obviously doctors don't, but to me, like, she wants to use those other terms, but to me that just kind of really seems futile because most people, they know what stem cells are, and that's, I mean, not all the way, but they have an idea about them. And so to call it something else doesn't really work. I think at this point we really have to push through it and just call them what they are and just try to educate people correctly.
Just going to move with it. They're going to ask, well, what's a progenitor or precursor cell?
Yeah, and what are you going to relate it to? Like, exactly. So you can call it what you want, so we're just going to go with stem cells. And you know that these things, they're highly controversial.
Is it working?
Oh.
I probably turned it off.
Yeah, so like I said, there's a lot of controversy surrounding these little dudes. And a lot of people believe that scientists are overstepping their bounds, especially with embryonic stem cells. It's a super invasive procedure to harvest those, and it kills the embryo. And that's what really leads to the stigma that Dr. Fox was talking about. But as a result, funding for this type of research has been relatively frugal, especially in the United States. And it's really put a burden on scientists to try to strive through it. The scientists like Dr. Shinya Yamanaka, Sir Martin Evans, and even James A. Thompson have all made huge strides in stem cell research. And with the ethical boundaries in there, it's like they know how to just revolutionize medicine and do all these great things with it, but they can't because of the ethics surrounding it. And so that was a problem facing these dudes. But we're going to talk about the objectives of my project real quick. It's really to increase awareness in the community and dispel the controversy that's surrounding stem cells. The community really being the NWAC, scientific community at this point, but also to provide an up-to-date resource and reference to these advancements in stem cell research, and I'm going to talk about the law surrounding them too. But when I say like a resource, obviously the website is going to have a lot of links to it too when it gets done. But throughout this slideshow, all these things in the red, you'll be able to download it off the website at one point. But these are actually links. These are links to their respective websites. It talks about what they're doing right now, things like that. And these two guys right here are actually Nobel Peace Prize winners. And Dr. Yamanaka on the far left actually won it this year. And so also at the very end, I'm going to show how stem cells are already being used right here in Arkansas as well.
Robert, are you going to tell them about your personal experience with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about a personal interview with him towards the end.
Well, how you were involved with the legislative end of it, but
Okay.
when you get there.
Yes, ma'am. And so what is a stem cell? Most of you guys already know. But it's an undeveloped cell, and it's capable of proliferating, self-renewing, and conversion to differentiated cells and regenerating tissues. And if you don't know, there's over 200 types of different cells in the human body. There's different numbers. Some project almost 300, and some say it's around 230. It just kind of depends on how specialized you're going to get. But still, so a stem cell, and they differentiate between stem cells and their ability to differentiate into these different types of cells. And they call that the cell of potency. And how you pronounce this is pluripotent.
How?
Pluripotent.
You don't say pluripotent?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
that's
What about-
according to Dr. Fox.
Okay, how about the toady?
Totipotent.
I'll be-
It's all potent.
Okay.
This is potency.
All right.
And
I'll
so-
change my mind.
There's a few different levels, but really the ones that our scientists are after are the pluripotent or the multipotent. The pluripotent, they can divide into nearly all the cells of an organism. In reference to humans, the only thing they can't divide into is like extra-embryonic tissue. So they can't themselves be made to produce an embryo. Whereas the totipotent ones, which is the one right above it, they're much more rare, but those can. So that's the differentiation between those two. But the next one, when you go down to multipotent, it can divide into a number of cells, but only those like closely related families. I think the best example would be like a blood stem cell. They can differentiate into white blood cells, red blood cells, and other parts of the bloodstream, but they're less recognizable. But but those are just closely related to that, and that's the only thing that they can really differentiate into. And right here we have a diagram of the hierarchy. It actually talks about the blood stem cells right there. You have the totipotent and the pluripotent, and this is down here into the multipotent. It even goes further, but really scientists are only worried about these because all the other ones, they're either too hard to get, or there's not enough of them, or what they can do with them is relatively limited. Whereas the multipotent and the pluripotent, you have much more capability with that. And these things have a lot of potential. We're not going to talk about what they can do just yet, but what they can do in the future is they have the ability to repair organs, even burn victims. Don't forget, your skin is an organ. It's not just going to be scar tissue. It has the ability to one day be able to replace that tissue. And mend broken bones and fight things like heart and Parkinson's and Huntington's disease, treat diabetes. And the cool thing is, I think, is screening effective and safe drugs. Is a lot of time the FDA will approve something, and you don't know its side effects until years later. And I think it's a really neat way where you can get a culture of these things and do some like to differentiate and stuff.
So you mean?
And test, like if you have liver disease, something wrong with your liver, and you have a drug that treats that, you can get liver cells and see what the drug's going to do to that.
So basically, you won't have to actually test it on like animals or
Like
something
a
like that. You could
precursor.
just-
Yeah,
you
exactly.
could just
And
test
that's an ethical problem too with some people.
That's a huge approach.
And so,
How, if you're treating it on those individual cells and organ type cells, how does that help at all with understanding how it may interact with a functioning organism? Or
well, I guess right now we can't necessarily create organs yet, just the tissue of them. So you have drugs that are specialized for certain areas of the body, and I guess what you can do is she's talking about like that therapeutic cloning and making the tissue. You can't necessarily test it on the organ itself and functioning, but you can see what it's going to do to those types of cells and like in the tissue form. It's not just you're not just going to be testing drugs on like individual cells, but it would be like the tissue to see what they're going to see what it can do even over long periods of time. I just think that's cool. Not only might it speed up how quickly the FDA approved drugs, because there is a delay. Even drugs right now that could
but
potentially.
it still wouldn't help necessarily. I'm just trying to see
No,
how.
we do the whole system.
Well, yeah, you couldn't do it all at once functioning together, but you could still learn a lot from the individual tissues that you can
But
produce.
we don't have that ability now.
Yeah,
It's a start.
that's-
It's a
Yeah.
star, right.
yeah, we don't have that ability yet. That's just the potential, and we'll talk about more